confront underdevelopment, which he said is a major driver of instability. Briefing the Security Council on Conflict and Human Development, Guterres said it was not surprising that 9 of the 10 poorest countries are currently in a state of war.
The fourth conference on financing for development starting next week will be an important moment for the world to fix and strengthen this essential engine. We must renew domestic and global commitments to get public and private finance flowing to the areas of greatest need. We need to provide urgent debt relief for countries drowning in unsustainable debt service. And we must reform the global financial architecture to reflect today's realities and the urgent needs of developing countries.
The African Union Commission Chief Mahmoud Yusuf said Africa was committed to addressing the socio-economic and political drivers of conflict.
The hard reality is that wherever the guns are loudest, human development is weakest. In turn, where poverty and exclusion persist.
Hello, my people. As you can see, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, you can call him a liar in a sense, but there's a lot of stuff that a lot of statement that he made that is true, and we're gonna analyze it in this video. You know what I mean? Because you know, he said a lot of stuff that is pure lie, and a lot of stuff that is true. But let's start with the stuff that are true, like the fact that in some African countries there's a war, not conflict, you know, because most of the time when stuff are happening in Africa, they don't, the West or the Western media doesn't qualify it as war. They try to downplay it as conflict. You know, there's conflict going on there in Africa, but it's actually a war. But if you turn around and look at how they try to describe their own conflict, they try to put it into war. Like, you know, anytime the West fight among themselves, and if it's a big fight, they call it World War, World War I, World War II. You know what I mean? But this is just their fight. They're fighting, you know, and sometimes they want to. They went ahead to involve others that are not part of their Western world. You know what I mean? Like what is happening in Ukraine and Russia, for them is war. But if the same thing is happening in Africa, it's conflict. They're gonna describe it as, you know, they downplay it, and people are dying because it's pure war that's going on there in Africa. I think he got that one right. But stuff that he got wrong is that he said that, although with statistics, but I think there's something missing there as well. He said that among the 9 poorest countries, 7 of them there is war, that they're trying to attribute poverty to war. But the thing is, like, you know, look at what's happening in the Middle East, like Israel, Iran's conflict now, it's even war. Can you say the same thing that is poverty causing the stuff like that? It's not. It's not. Even the Russian-Ukrainian war is not poverty that is causing that, because Russia is one of the developed countries. They have technology. Even Ukraine is fairly not poor country, but there is war going on there, so it cannot be they cannot narrow the conflict or war down to, you know, the poverty. You know, sometimes it's greed, like as we see in the Western world. You know, anytime you see them, this propaganda about war going on is an advertisement strategy or marketing strategy for those that provide arms. Let's go back to another stuff he said about debt relief in Africa. You know, in these poor countries, they need debt relief. And let's use Africa as an example. You know, a lot of African countries that termed poor countries, and they have high debt. You know, and this high debt comes from the foreigners that keep giving them this money. But when you narrow it down, when you look at what are they using this money to do? Because there's no infrastructures going on. Like there's no like big infrastructures they're using this money on, and it's not like they're using it to feed people in these poor countries. So this is a scam, because why are you giving money to a few people in politics? Yeah, and the whole country is taking it as a debt. You know what I mean? And because they cannot see this effect of all this money, they say the Africa is, some African countries are owing them. You know what I mean? It runs into billions of dollars. And when you look at the ground, nothing shows that this money is even reaching the people. It's not always about, oh, there's conflict there and they are pumping money there and we don't see the effect there. Because it's not only poverty that causes conflict. Some of the external forces in Africa are breeding this conflict. You know what I mean? They are not just because people are poor, they should fight each other. No. Because sometimes poverty makes one humble. It doesn't, most of the time, it doesn't make you to start fighting. You know what I mean? If poverty makes people to fight, or most of the African countries will be at war with each other. But it's not. And as we see in the West, there's this it's not poverty that causes conflict or war. But I'm not saying like there might not be like some conflict that caused because of poverty, or but I don't think poverty causes war, but it can cause crime. I'm not downplaying that they cannot cause some crimes to go on in a poor areas. You know what I mean? But for it to cause war, I have doubt about it. You know what I mean? So when they keep giving Africa money, these politicians money in Africa, and they put this money, or the burden of paying that money on the whole country, is wrong. Because if you are giving somebody money, you can't just be borrowing somebody money for. See, a person doesn't tell you what he's gonna do with that money, or you don't even look at what he does with that money. What you do is just to give that money to them. This is so bad, you know what I mean? Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our video. Peace.